Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Masters podcast. Really excited to have somebody on today. We've been trying to get this in the calendar for a little while. I've got Kushlani the Silva on with me. Kushlani has over 15 years of experience in the tech space. She excels in customer-facing roles across both product and services, and currently serves as a fractional CMO, helping companies accelerate their marketing efforts. In the past, she's worked at MITSP, where she built a marketing team and drove performance enhancements. And over time, she's worked with over 20 scale ups and startups, leading diverse marketing, branding, and content initiatives. Kushlani, welcome.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to have a good conversation with you.
Sure. Tell me, Kushlani, a little bit about what you're doing at the moment. I see you're like a fractional marketer or fractional CMO plus a fractional head of or head of marketing. Tell me a little bit about what keeps you busy nowadays.
Sure. So basically, what I do is I offer a head of marketing or a chief marketing officer role to organizations that, for whatever reason, cannot hire the same role in house. So the reason I decided to go down this path and offer strategic marketing input and support and mentorship to teams is because a lot of organizations within the tech industry, which is where I work, both startups and scale ups, are in dire need of this kind of support. They have either very small marketing teams or one person marketing teams that are not fully empowered to be able to deliver the results and outcomes that they ideally should. So what I do is I come in, I take the experience that I have, I customize it based on what the client wants and what their key priorities are on the marketing, sales, and business development and overall growth fronts. And I work on helping them either create a marketing structure and a team from scratch, or basically accelerate what they're already doing and just helping to make it more of a marketing organization in whatever way that makes sense to that particular company. So in short, I work as a head of marketing across different organizations that really need marketing support in order to get to the next level with in terms of their growth or strategy, or overall business priorities.
Got it. So, how many companies are you working with at the moment?
At the moment, I'm working with four and then hoping to onboard one more towards the end of next week.
Wow, good stuff. That's four. So I'm also a fractional marketer, right? So I get it. Four is four to five. Five is your limit. Have you had five before?
No, no. I mean, I just started. I started this in mid March this year, so it's quite new to me as well. I'm learning a lot of things along the process. So it's the first time that I'm doing it, and then just figuring out the workings of this entire model. And I think it's interesting because everybody has a different pulse towards marketing. Some are more hands on, some are a little bit more hands off. They're like, look, it's all in your hands. You take it and go. Others like to get a little bit more involved. So that makes it easy to divide my time and effort and input between clients as well. Simply because everybody is different and everyone comes with a different set of expectations and priorities. And I think in my role, it is up to me to make sure that I give them what they want, but I also come in and bring some method to the madness, because there is a lot of madness in marketing with most of the organizations I work with. So that's the challenge, but that's also the opportunity.
Let's talk about the madness for a bit because I love the madness. The madness is wild, right? Especially in tech.
Absolutely.
So tell me what's some of the things you've been doing this for a few months now. So what are some of the craziest things you've encountered when you go and speak with customers or
Yeah.
prospects?
So I think one situation that is very, very common here. So right now I work with mostly companies based out of Sri Lanka, but of course they have operations in other countries as well. And even though when I ask them, do you have a marketing team? Their answer is yes. But the marketing team is one person. So you get the same person who's posting content on socials, who's sometimes even designing the social media posts themselves, running an event, helping a partner with collateral, making sure that the website is optimized for SEO. So everybody is doing, it's one person doing everything. So at the end of the day, you have a very overworked, not necessarily motivated marketer who has nobody to go to for support. And this is a problem problem that I identified early on as well, because it's good to be a full stack marketer and have specialization across different areas, but this is not a scalable nor a sustainable model when you need to expand into other regions or into other markets. So going in and seeing being able to change these models is something that I've been doing quite a bit across my work in the last couple of months as well. And then everyone's understanding of marketing is also different. For some people, when when you say marketing, they think it's just social media or just website, or just one channel of marketing, just one avenue. So I think going in and being able to change the perception of marketing, change the perception of team dynamics, bring in a little bit more clarity in terms of what marketing can deliver, setting the expectation that marketing results are take time and can be very different over a period of time, are just some of the things that things I've dealt with. But I think the biggest madness, as I call it, is just going into organizations and seeing one person doing everything with a whole bunch of other things in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, I get that, and it's also I see it quite often that then people are annoyed, or C levels are like, well, our marketing's not working. We have a marketer, so what's the issue, right? And it's
Exactly.
like, well, that's the issue. You have a marketer. That's the problem. They need guidance. They need a plan. They need to be able to execute on the plan. They don't need to do all of the things. If you have one person doing all of the things, they will ultimately fail, right? And I've met with a
Absolutely.
company not too long ago where they had one marketer that was doing product marketing, social media, events,
Mm.
content, like everything. And they were like, well, we've had 3 marketers quit in the past 18 months. I'm like, well, were they all doing that one job? Like, is it like a new
Exactly.
marketer every time doing that exact same? They're like, yeah. What's the problem? Like, oh, you've just identified the problem. Like the fact that you can't
Yes.
see it is wild. But anyway, interesting, very interesting. Okay, let's move over to some of the stuff that you've done before you started your fractional gig, right? So if we're talking back to your time at MIT ESP, right? You were there building a team. Tell us a bit about the team that you built there. How big was the team? What was your focus, etc.?
Sure. So at MIT, also, I initially started in a consulting capacity, so part time. But then the more time I spent with them, I realized that you actually needed someone full time, because when I came in, there was only, again, one marketer who was doing everything. So what I did and how I defined the team dynamics and the skills that would be needed is, again, I looked at the priorities that the business had at the moment. So there was some global expansions going on at the time. There was a lot of content that need to be churned out in terms of various assets for various presentations and so on and so forth. And at the same time, the overall digital presence was not doing too well either. The websites weren't really up to date. Socials were focusing on very minimal, very niche kind of messages, which without really taking out what the brand stood for. So after that, I looked at, okay, these are the key gaps. So we needed to build our digital presence. We needed to make sure that our creatives were consistent from a branding point of view, from a messaging point of view, and so on. And events were also a large part of their strategy, because MIT ESP works with a lot of partners, and a lot of those relationships are built through events. So, looking at that scope, I knew events was a priority. So we got someone on board to focus on events in a hybrid role while also looking at branding. Then we got someone to focus on socials and digital. We towards the end, towards the latter part of my stay, we were working with a couple of outsourced agencies for creatives. But again, something I always recommend is that the creative role is essentially something that has to sit in house, because you really have to get a feel for the brand and a feel for the business in the creative output that you turn out. So we ended up with a team that had someone handling social media, events and branding, website, and then a creative design as well. And I think those dynamics really worked well, because it evolved from a 1-person team to a 5-person team with myself included. So the strategic input was there, and then the delivery was happening as well. And I think that helped because we had different people focusing on different areas based on the priority of the business. But of course, again, because it is a small team, whenever there was something that was a little hybrid and not nicely fitting into any of the delegated areas, we would all kind of come together and look at whose strengths work best for that role and then get that person on the job.
Excellent. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, how did you then go? Because you said you grew the team from one person, which was you, I guess, to 5 people. How quickly did that transition happen?
So the initial, so myself included, so when I came, there was one person, and then with me, so that became two, and then we hired two others. I think that would have all happened possibly in, I think, in the course of maybe 2 to 3 months, which I think we were fortunate because we managed to find the right people who needed to deliver based on the expectations that were set.
Got it. Then it's about creating a business case then for taking people on, because taking people on is a big commitment as well, right? It's a big cost to the business. It's normally the biggest cost of the business normally is
It is.
headcount, right? So tell me, how were you justifying growing that team so rapidly to your exec team?
So I think the good thing, the fortunate thing was the leadership was on board on on the fact that we needed proper marketing support and in-house marketing support in order to get things really going. And by showing that, look, this is what, because when I came on board, there was also quite a bit of a pipeline of things that were held up for various reasons that had to get executed as well. So there were time sensitive things that had to go out. Then there were other things like socials which had to be maintained and which had to be enhanced. So the problems were already felt, quite fortunately. So I didn't have to make too much of an effort to make sure that these things happen. But getting them on board and justifying that these are the skill sets needed, these are the kinds of experience that we need, was quite straightforward. So I'll just quickly go into another example as well. So even for as a fractional CMO, I also help clients hire as well. So I do the whole interview process and then the assessment and all of that. So even with clients, when I go in and if they have just the one person and they think, look, you're coming on board, I have someone already, why do we need someone else? I try to justify it in a manner to look at, okay, you're with one person, this is what you are accomplishing already. Then when I'm coming on board, you're going to be able to accomplish a little bit more on the strategy front, but you still need people to execute who are on the ground, who can turn things around fast. So when you map out the gaps versus where you are currently and where you want to go, and you show that headcount and talent is a gap here, then it helps to make the case a little bit easier.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And then you can obviously then get that business case signed off very easily. If you're able to show how that person's going to be able to deliver to the business and what that's going to mean and what the end result is going to be, it makes life a lot easier. I think that's normally one of the things that I've come across sitting in a position where people are coming to me asking for additional headcount. It's all very ad hoc, right? That's something that I've come across very often. So, oh, we've got this gap to fill now. We need extra headcount to fill it. I'm like, well, will you need that extra headcount in a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or 2 years from now, whatever it might be? And it's if people are not able to paint the picture of terms of how this person is going to be able to deliver across multiple facets of the business and how that's going to help us grow, basically it's very hard to get sign off, right? I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is actually putting that business case together and then being able to sell it to whoever the decision maker is, right?
Exactly. And just to add to that, I think as long as you start, rather than starting with, I need someone to manage and optimize the website, you just go and say, okay, right now, aside of the leads that your partner brings in, your website is your primary source of leads. But people are only going to come to your website and convert if the content makes sense to them, if the messaging is relevant, if the form filling process is easy, if they can navigate appropriately. But right now, if you say the current resource is not able to do all of those things, which means we need a dedicated person who understands the in and out of how websites work, then that means that they're going to come in, put some time together, help refine the whole process. You're going to get more leads. That's hopefully going to convert. So there's a business case right there, because marketing is essentially a channel, and the people that we bring in, are brought to make that channel better. So making the channel better means the outcomes of the channel is better. So if it's a website, it's your leads, whether it's a marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. But at the end of the day, the investment that you're making in that person is an investment you're making in the channel that's actually going to help you with with one of your business outcomes, with it, which is generating more leads.
Makes perfect sense. Let's go to a slightly different lane in terms of finding those people, right? Recruiting. Like, how do you go about recruiting?
So what I generally recommend both to companies, and something I do myself, is once you've got your standard kind of job description and the requirements of the role and the skill sets, even before putting the vacancy or the job advert out there, I like to do a little bit of digging around on LinkedIn to see if there is a potential match. Because I feel like because a lot of marketing roles are generalized as well. We have this problem in tech here in Sri Lanka. You advertise for a tech marketing role, but there are very few tech marketers who are actually within the industry. So you will get people, not that there's anything wrong with it, it's always good to have different opinions and people with different skill sets come in, but maybe someone from a non-tech industry who's going to come into this madness that I defined earlier might not really work. Someone coming in from the tech industry is already going to be used to it because you've probably been in a similar situation before. So doing a little bit of intel and a little bit of digging around on LinkedIn and finding people who are probably from the same kind of companies who've gotten exposed to similar situations. Maybe they're already good at content. They already their brand is solid, which is always good. So doing that level of intel and then shortlisting a couple of people is something that I do first, and then I try to reach out to them and see, look, there's an opportunity, are you interested? Looks like what you're already doing is similar, but here you have the advantage of being exposed to more tools, more regions, a different outlook, and so on. And if that fails, then I would try to, most cases it doesn't fail, it's been successful for me in the past. But if it does fail, then you put out the job advert, and then look at filtering the best possible candidates that come in through the advert.
So yeah, I agree with you there. I think in that last piece, especially around the around people like registering or applying via the website, for example, I've had two different jobs that I've been that I've just filled, luckily, but two senior or sales development reps, one based in Ireland, one based in the US. And I think I had top of funnel applicants. I had across both jobs like close to 1,000 applicants, I guess. And I was using Personio to basically sift through all of these applications to process it all, right? And I think that's really important, especially if you're looking to grow a team quickly. You should have a piece of software like that that's able to bring applicants through the process for you. On top of that, another thing that I do is when I get a job like that and I have lots of different people looking to apply or have applied, you're obviously going to find a lot of interesting profiles. I only schedule a 15-minute screening call. That's like, and I typically don't do the screening call. I get somebody else to do it for me. But you don't have that luxury. Do it yourself. But 15 minutes only, just to make sure that that person doesn't have 10 heads, because that can happen sometime. That when I say 10 heads, that you have some level of rapport with that person. You'll see that immediately, and then you move to first round interview. First round interview typically for me is 45 minutes. So like, you want to be as efficient as possible with this process. And it's the same as sales, right? I see recruitment and sales being very similar. And a lot of good recruiters make very, very good sellers, right? I've worked with some transitioned recruiters over to the selling team that have worked better than most sellers that just started as a seller, right? Because they're always looking to qualify out, right? And that's the most important thing. How do I qualify this person out of the process? Or how do I, like, what are the things that, from a sales perspective, the same, how do I qualify this deal out of my pipe? Because then you end up with a very healthy pipeline. If you look really, really critically at your pipeline and look to qualify out, then you'll find that whatever's left in your pipeline is gold. And the same goes with recruiting. And that's exactly how I look at recruiting across all jobs that I go out with. 100% that way. Look at it like a pipeline, like you would a sales pipeline.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and I think you're right. You do that. The first couple of minutes on that initial conversation will really show you and tell you, look, is the person who's going to come in be going to be able to deliver? Are they going to fit in with the rest of the team? And then I think it just makes sense for you and for the person that that is being interviewed as well, just to make that process faster and much more efficient. And if you're hiring for multiple roles, that means the process needs to be even more efficient. You can't spend too much time on any one task. So what you said sounds just right, Andy, and I think that's a good practice for anyone to follow, really.
Fully agree. Fully agree. Kushlani, we're just coming up on time now, so I just want to say thank you. And also, where can people find you?
Well, I'm quite active on LinkedIn. That's my platform, and I think I've managed to grow my brand there quite effectively, I think, as well. So if anyone's interested, just drop me a message. I'm quite responsive, and then I do spend a lot of time on LinkedIn as well, for customer efforts and just for my own knowledge as well. So yeah, I'd be happy to have a conversation with anyone who's interested in having a chat.
Perfect. We'll make sure that those details are also shared in the description of the episode, Kushlani. Again, big thank you.
Wonderful.
Big thank you for coming on and having a chat with me, and thank you for taking the time out of your day. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Andy. It was a great chat, and thanks again.
Sure. Guys, this has been another episode of the Marketing Masters podcast. Tune in again next week for more great content. Thanks, Kushlani.